Hello and welcome to Craft and Quest. In this video, my quest is to craft the scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where the Black Knight fights King Arthur. Or maybe just after the fight. We'll see. I started by cutting two 8x8 squares, and then building up the terrain so I used less Sculptamold. After I was done with that, in a ventilated space, I started carving divots out of the ravine. I then applied some Drydex spackling to the sides, trying to cover up those divots between the foam layers. I didn't like how the Sculptamold looked after it dried in the riverbed, so I took a carving knife, and I wanted to kind of carve out little divots and kinks in the river to show, maybe where there was some wear or deterioration on those outer walls during a heavy rain or something. Here you can see some of the products that I used to build up the texture after I applied some PVA glue to the top hills, mountains, and walkway area. I've been wanting to make this channel for a long time, over a year now, but my fear of posting online and being, susceptible to judgment or being seen as inadequate as a crafter kind of prevented me from doing so. So, it took a year, but I'm here. And that's really all that matters. I really liked these pebbles and how they looked. My friend got them for me a long time ago, and I think they're a perfect color for a riverbed. Later on in the video I paint them up, and I regret doing so, but I'll be able to use the color, the natural color, in another build sometime down the road. I didn't have any plaster for this Mod Podge paint water mix, so I used some joint compound, and it was a little too soupy, and it actually kind of ruined part of the texture on where I wanted the pathway to be, but hey, now I know. On the YouTube channel Creative Cuts, I saw him make a pine tree with this method of using a small bit of balsa wood and punctured holes with a hand drill and some garden wire, and I really liked it. And seeing as I just got my first grass applicator, I thought, yeah, what the hell, I'll try and make a tree. If you haven't seen his channel, I doubt you've seen my channel and you haven't seen his, but you should go check him out. He's a really cool dude, and his getting started video really helped me kind of, get started. Coming up here is my first hilarious blunder of the video. Is the first time I've ever used a static grass applicator, so I applied some glue from above on the tree, and below the tree was the paper towel. So once I applied the grass to the tree, the paper towel, it took some. Oh well. I ended up with this pretty cool tree that has frosted tips. Maybe it's the wintertime. Unbeknownst to me, my battery died, but here's a little bit of the footage of me using my airbrush on the train, trying to carve out where the grass is going to be. I started dry brushing on the pathway, and I gave it a light tan and gray, and it started to pop. I liked it so much that I started applying it to some of the hills that I didn't want to have a little grass on. Here you can see where the Mod Podge and the paint took away those natural colors on the pebbles, which sucks, but it's okay. While foolishly still wearing my respirator, I dry brushed the top of the riverbed. I apply PVA glue, spread it around, and I have a second battle here with the static grass applicator. There's a bit of a learning curve, but I think I'm coming a long way already. This is 4mm and then a little 2mm after that. I throw some dirt on there as well, just to try and tie everything together. The differences are a little jarring, so I think it did what it needed to do. I insert the tree on the little hill, and it looks like things are starting to come together. This is one of my favorite parts of terrain building, is the little details. I don't have much bushes or scatter or whatever you'd call it, foliage, but I just went out in my backyard and grabbed some sticks, broke them apart, and I applied some scenic sealant after I liked where they were. I shredded some of the sticks off of this wreath that I think will be perfect for the riverbed, and I started going it down with some super glue. Later on, I realized that the super glue was a bad choice because it dried white, so I had to kind of go back and fix those mistakes, but I'll use a different glue next time. This is a moment where I kind of started doubting myself in the build. Even though it was coming together and it's starting to look really nice, I couldn't stop but think, you know, I've been binging these crafting videos for so long. Like, what other different things would more experienced people be doing than what I'm doing? And, well, I was able to shut that negative voice up in my head and make a bridge out of some balsa wood. I applied some texture before I started cutting up the pieces of wood, just because I thought it'd be easier. I cut those small pieces of wood and got some tape. Started putting those pieces of wood on the tape. This just helps me make it so things don't slide around as much. I wanted the bridge to be pretty old and kind of destroyed, so I took some small pieces out with my elephant knife, gave it some age, and then I gave it some beams underneath, so if you look closely you can tell that it's not just planks. There's at least some structure to it. Initially I wanted the Black Knight to be whole before the fight, but I tried sculpting it and, you know, it went like this. So then I decided, off with his limbs. This will be easier for a noob sculptor like myself. And you know what? I ended up being pretty proud of this torso and helmet. It was pretty easy to make, but it took me a long time, and I, you know, got to practice some patience. But I needed legs and arms, and I wasn't feeling super confident doing the whole thing, so I cut him off of other models. And considering he's the Black Knight, the whole painting process after I had all these limbs was pretty easy. The sword is a short sword, though, and I didn't like that, so I clipped it off. And RP Archive a long time ago made a video where he used a comb or a hairbrush and created swords and maces out of that plastic. And, well, perfect time to use those skills. Thank you, Matt from RP Archive. There's some red on the chest of the Black Knight, and I couldn't really make out what it was, but it looked like some kind of animal, some crest of some sorts. Well, after I was painting the helmet, I realized, hey, I have some decals from my orc army. Maybe I could use something, and one of the axes would be perfect as a wolf. So I cut it out, and yeah, it looked kind of wolf-like. I applied some more red paint on where the white paper had been, you know, scratched away, and took some cement glue, whatever it's called, I can't remember right now, and I applied that to his chest. And you know what? I got a lot of pride about this Black Knight. I'm really stoked with how he came out. Even though in the movie the riverbed is dry, and part of the hilarity is that King Arthur can cross really wherever he wants, I still thought that this would be a good diorama to do an epoxy pour, so I applied some sealant, some Quick Seal Ultra Sealant, and put a little clear packing tape on some foam board, and fingers crossed. I put some weights on each side in the hopes that it would dry holding well, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Looking back, I wish I put the bridge a little more in the terrain. It's kind of just floating there, and when I glue it down permanently, it'll look a little weird, but now I know, lesson learned, and the next bridge will be even better. But yeah, I wanted to add some moss color just to make it pop and fit within the scene a little more, so I did that. While the camera wasn't rolling, I added some green to the rocks in and around the river. I applied some additional resin where I put the sealant, and then cured it with my handheld light. Probably overkill, but I guess you can never be too careful on your first resin pour. I got these products for cheap at Michael's, and in hindsight, maybe I should have gone with better quality stuff, but I did as the instructions said. I mixed equal parts, I stirred it all together, and then I added the pigment powder. At this point, the resin was looking really thick and opaque, and I wanted to just scrap it and not do the resin pour, but I decided the best way to learn is to fail, so I said screw it, and I poured the resin into my little river. There was definitely some user error here with this resin pour, so I don't want to insinuate that I blame the product by any means. And now I wait 12 hours to see how it turned out. The sides pop off, no problem. And you know what? I really like the resin. I liked the color. I think it contrasts well with the grass and the dirt. I trimmed off the little sharp edges of the resin that dried. And then I applied some water ripples on the top of the river, which really improved the look of it, I think. I was really happy with this. Just before the final reveal, and as I do the final touches, I wanted to say thank you. If you liked the video, consider subscribing to the channel or sending the link around to your friends. I plan on making a lot more videos like this, whether it be dioramas, or terrain for Dungeons & Dragons, or Warhammer, so there's a lot more to come. Lest we forget, the Black Knight remained on post, even after his bout with King Arthur. What a guy. I added some blood for the blood god at the limbs and the torso area, and then I painted the sides black. And with that done, my quest was complete. Thanks for watching.